what are some of the biggest problems you see with clients understanding what to do? Where do we start? Do we do Facebook? Do we do Instagram? Do we do SEO? Do we do content marketing? So walk us through a little bit how you explain it to your clients of what you're going to do, so, and distill it into some simplicity, because I think a lot of people are overwhelmed by the complexity of the ecosystem we live in today. It's incredibly complex. So so could maybe take us through how you would explain what you're going to do to grow a company using technology and marketing today?
Yeah, I think the big thing is, so one, just to be very specific, like when you talk about Instagram and SEO and content marketing, all that stuff, we would really bucket that in the digital marketing space, right? And that's really about creating aware and demand. And for us, what we're really focused on in our company is we actually don't do any of the digital marketing stuff. We're more focused on once somebody hits your website, how are we going to convert them? Once we get their email, how are we going to nurture them? How are we going to treat that customer once we have their actual data? So hyper focus on that first party element of like, hey, once they're on your website, what do we do? What is that optimization? So when I do talk to businesses that are trying to figure out the whole digital marketing ecosystem, right, is you really have to try to be as pragmatic as possible and start as small as possible. And you have to really understand that like you're dealing with a lot of competition on these digital channels. So you have to try to stay as focused as possible when you're getting started. You can't boil the ocean, do Pinterest, Instagram, and Facebook and Twitter and all that stuff at the same time.
Yep.
You're better to start focusing on one of those channels and really getting good at that as much as you can. And I always advise everybody, steal from your best competitor, right? Like try to do, like find your best, like I have not, in my career, I've innovated some really, really cool stuff, but don't get me wrong. Most of those innovations started from me stealing somebody else's stuff, right? Like, and my biggest claims to fame in my career where I have helped a company completely explode was because I stole something from somebody else and I modified it to fit in my framework. So naturally try to get as much inspiration from other people as you can. But the biggest thing that I would just say, like what you have to start with is you have to understand that if they can't convert on your website, it doesn't matter what else they do. And a lot of people tend to focus way too much on how am I going to drive traffic? How am I going to drive over here? And they don't focus enough on like, okay, this is where they actually purchase. Is this experience easy enough for them to go through? So I really do try to make sure that people focus on like, hey, where are they going to pay you? Is that experience good? Is that going to be really easy to do? Can they actually pay you money? Because you'd be surprised. Some people really bash that up. And then, of course, work your way outwards, which is once and then drive demand, drive all the awareness. So I really try to keep it as simple as that. But naturally, there is too much, right? You're probably experiences as well. I mean, there's more social networks and probably people that are on the internet right now, right? Like there's a network for everything at this point. So there's definitely a lot of stuff going on, but focus on how they're going to pay you, right? And get that mastered first before you try to drive that demand.